Welcome back. This is Sean Fitzpatrick, again, speaking to you from Houston, Texas, actually from my home. And this class is called How We Meet a Pandemic. This is the second week. I'm actually speaking to you on March the 29th. Hopefully this will get posted on the 30th. On Monday, hopefully in the morning. We'll see what I get to tonight. And this has been such a rich experience for me already. I want to thank all of the people who've been participating in it. I know that some people will be joining this week. I see there's still registrations coming in for this. And just know that join the conversation at any point feels comfortable for you. I'm grateful to anybody who is watching these lectures and reading the book. But you don't have to have done all that to join in the discussions. We had really rich conversations on Thursday of last week. We had two sessions. One was at 12:30 Central Time, and the other was at 6:30 Central Time. We had about, 15 to 20 people in each of those. I know that there were well in the, well over 100 people who have registered for this so far. So not everybody joined those discussions, but I encourage you to if you can. So a couple of things that came up in those discussions, I guess I'll mention as we go through the conversation today. One person actually said that they were curious about if there were differences between the two conversations that we had. And of course there were, because it was the two sets of people. But one common theme that was discussed in both, I'll sort of start with here today, is the notion of the symbol. And that the plague we're going to treat in this class as a symbol. And a symbol is, we might define as the best possible expression for something yet unknown or has yet to come into consciousness. And that definition comes from, I think, kind of equal parts Jung and Daryl Sharp, who just died last year, was the publisher of Inner City Books. We would distinguish a symbol from a sign, right? So a sign is where one thing, an idea, a word, an image is standing in for another idea or image or experience. A symbol is not a sign. A symbol kind of has, you can't reduce it to a simple definition. There's layers and layers and layers of meaning, and meaning that might reveal itself over time. So over the course of our conversations together, we're treating the plague in this book by Camus as a symbol. And by extension, the pandemic and our experience of it as a symbol, because it is speaking in our imaginations right now to us. And it's speaking about some depth of human experience that is difficult to capture in language. So what we use is the technique of circumambulation. That's just a fancy word for meaning we walk around it. And we allow ourselves to respond to that symbol with our own images, with our own feelings, with our own thoughts. And we talk about it together in a group. This week, I really want to thank, along with all of the people who corresponded with me and who participated in those conversations, I want to thank two people in particular. One is Mary Beth Smith, who is an instructor at the Jung Center and gave me wonderful feedback about the first lecture. I think you'll immediately see some of it, which is that we've divided this lecture into parts as I'm recording it. I can't tell you how many parts, but I'm betting it's going to be 3. It may be 4 parts, depending on how long this first part goes. But we want to divide it into parts so that it's a little bit easier to digest. The second person I want to thank is David Sunday, who works at the Council on Recovery here in Houston. I'm just giving him a shout out because he had a beautiful post on Facebook that actually wasn't about this class. It was more about his experience of being part of groups talking about it's their experience of the pandemic and also how they're doing right now, and just kind of cautioning us about making sure that we don't open ourselves up in ways that are uncomfortable or that will leave us really, really vulnerable. So I just encourage us to pay attention to how much of this, how we're doing as we read the plague, as we reflect on this material together, and that we each feels that we have authority to take care of ourselves. And by all means, reach out to me, send me an email or something, or reach out to others who can be supportive of you. If this does touch something that's really difficult for you and that you don't know what to do with. With that, I'm going to move now into it looks like probably the first part is going to be divided into two. I'm calling this first part "Looking for Answers," and I would just want to notice that. So last week I articulated some questions that we were starting with in this conversation. The first one, obviously, is how do we meet a pandemic? Out of that, some other questions emerged. The first was, what kind of action can we take when our usual ways of responding are taken away from us? Of course, that has very practical implications for us right now because I'm sitting from self-quarantine, or not self-quarantine, but stay-at-home order here in Harris County. So a lot of the ways that we're used to responding to a crisis have been taken away from us. The second question was, how do we carry our difficult feelings, our own experiences of suffering in this moment? And then some other questions that hopefully the text Camus' The Plague is helping, or certainly is raising for us. One of them is, what is the role of duty right now? Another is about the experience of love and its relationship to how we might respond to the pandemic. Another has to do with the role of self-preservation in this moment. And the last, there are others, but these are the ones that we kind of enumerated on screen last week. The last is, how do we experience meaning?